Okay, so this is behind the scenes, and we're actually in the middle of a glitch, which has happened every single episode, and is all part of the learning curve. So, what's happened this time is that my iPad is completely dead. Why do I need my iPad? Because I have gotten a teleprompter so that I can use the iPad to have the text mirror so that I can read it while looking directly into my phone, which is the camera. This was all a giant experiment and started out in my little closet sort of office space. It's this little space in my apartment that doesn't even have a door. It just has sort of a little nook. And I thought, sure, I'm going to put up green screens. I'm going to make the best studio ever. And well, it turns out that I bought the wrong color green. By the way, make sure you get the right color green, and honestly, based on the research I did, maybe consider blue and the right color blue, because I got this like neon fluorescent green just because they had it at the dollar store. Nope. Nope. Not even close. It casts this alien like green shadow on me. But anyway, so I tried that. I tried to use a computer that is wonderful, don't get me wrong, but it's 10 years old. I got out all my equipment because I have done a lot of footage creation and stuff like that. And I have a Nikon DSLR that, again, over 10 years old. I have even a video camcorder. Did you know they still make those? Well, they did 10 years ago because I still have one. But I couldn't get it to work correctly, and I couldn't get the sound to work correctly. So I thought, hey, I have a MacBook desktop. I have a Mac desktop. Let's use that. And that way it has an excellent microphone and an excellent camera. And when I say excellent, I'm speaking in terms of 10 years ago. So while all of my valiant efforts were in good faith, they all failed. I tried several different microphones. I do have a lavalier microphone. Unfortunately, again, a 10-year-old microphone compared to the power of the iPhone Pro 14 Max. I'm not being sponsored here, of course, but compared to that, it sounds really, really like something's in the background. Like doesn't take out the white noise very well. And so after making a couple mistakes there with some video, I decided to just go ahead and use the actual internal microphone in my actual phone. So what you're doing right now is you're looking at me, and I am sitting in my studio that I finally created. And really, what this is I used to live in a very small apartment, and I had this little cute couch that I'm sitting on. But I always loved the couch. I didn't want to get rid of it. So when I got my bigger couch for my living room, I decided to put this one in here. So we are in my bedroom, and I have this window with the most beautiful light, and it's filtered just right. I mean, it's just mwah, chef's kiss to the light. However, another learned event was when you are trying to put a camera lens, or in this case, a phone lens, inside of the teleprompter, there can be no light. I repeat, absolutely no light coming in. Like, so if you have the lens here and you put it up against it, no light there might be around. None, none. And there must have been the tiniest, I shoved that thing in there, but it must have been the tiniest little bit of light, and the whole thing did this starburst thing that ended up looking really not so great. So I've got my curtains closed. It's the morning and it looks like nighttime in here. I usually have excellent lighting, but I had some issues with just pure space and the distance the cords were reaching. So I have here, this is a lamp with no shade and has upward lighting. That's so that you can see the whites of my eyes, because otherwise I look like a dead soul speaking to you. And then over here, I'm not going to move it because it's very precariously balanced, but I have the ring light over here just to kind of balance that out. Now, what's new this time, there's always a new issue every time, is that I have these 5 overhead bulbs that I can rotate. And I did so that it would create a studio-like effect. It worked great last time. Last week, I was happy with it. This week, it did that starburst thing in the camera again. And you know what? I just stopped trying to figure it out and turned them off. So the lighting might look a little odd. That's one thing I've learned on this journey is I always knew the value of good lighting. I was a photographer's assistant for over 10 years. I used to model, and so I was behind and in front of the camera, which really teaches you a lot. I would say that's a really good tip. If you're going to be in front of the camera, take some time to learn how to be behind it, and that way you're really going to work with your team a whole lot better. Or in this case, you're going to work with yourself a whole lot better, which brings me to my second point. While this was an independent study, man, I could have used some help. I wish that I had enlisted someone to help me with the back end, because a lot of times, you could put like maybe a mirror behind this camera contraption I have here, and that way I could see that it is recording, that I am in focus, that everything is right. But I can't do that. So what I have to do is I go behind the teleprompter, which is very close to my bed, so I try not to bump it, and then I put my hand in front of the camera to get it in focus, and then I sit down kind of behind my hand, and then suddenly I'm in focus. So definitely things can be done greatly, but maybe not by oneself. Leading into another crucial issue is my internet speed. Now, I know that everyone complains about their internet speed. I'm not even going to throw the company that I use under the bus by saying their name. However, I was getting upload-download speeds of like 1.5, 2.6, whereas a lot of people are getting 300, 400, 500. And so the download speeds and upload speeds, which are necessary for this kind of work, would take maybe 6 hours just to upload raw footage. That means 6 hours plus all the time to edit and let it render. There's another tip there. If you're new to making videos, or if you're new to this sort of environment, remember that rendering video takes a very long time in comparison to what you might expect. It's not like you finish a project and you're on Photoshop and you save it, and it takes a little time because it's a very large product that you've made or design that you've made. No. Rendering a video takes about the same time that it takes to record and edit the video. So if you think you need to do it a day in advance, do it 4 days in advance. I mean, you can never do it too early. Bringing me to another point I've learned. Breaking news is much more impressive than I ever gave it credit for. So I know that they're big studios and, Good Morning America, all these things, they have a huge team of people. And so they call it the on-air talent. And so they sit at the desk and they read the story and they present it to you, and all is well, because there was somebody else there to do some research and to help out with writing the script, and etc., etc. Now, if you are a reporter that's on location, that's a different story, because these days things are changing. So again, another tip, if you're interested in going into this industry, know this. I have a degree in communications, and it's partially in broadcast journalism. When I first started, it was usually a duo, the buddy system. A pair of two people would go out, and you'd have one with the I don't know why we haven't made it smaller yet, but the big giant news camera, I don't know if it's just meant to be like, hey guys, I'm a news camera, but you had to, it was huge, and you had to like hold it up on your shoulder and everything like that, because you couldn't just hold it in midair. You needed it stabilized. And often there's not a tripod to set up because you're, like I said, on location. Sometimes they shoo you away, so you have to get the story done very quickly. In that case, you have to take notes, have a great memory, and just go for it and absolutely be all in on the story. For this project, I have tried to pick every story as something that was less than a week old. With AI, there's so much news out there. There's so many types of AI news out there. And there's really nothing new under the sun or that people haven't heard about. So I've tried to find some ways to look at AI through different eyes, through a different lens. My goal has been not to tell you the tech specs and details, but rather the impact, the community impact, the world impact that AI has. We talked about Dolly Parton, even. We brought her into the conversation and her as a holograph. We talked about all kinds of things, and in this last episode that I hope I'm about to film, because I hope battery power will return, I talk about the grandiose big picture. Now, when I say that, what I mean is it's easy to get wrapped up in all these really cool things. Oh, AI can do this and AI can do that. And, teachers and professors, I spoke to you, Dr. Weber, and asked about how y'all are handling it in this environment. And even you said you're still figuring it out. Well, that's because the industry is still figuring itself out. And I think there's going to be a very large curveball, but one that we may be prepared more for as a society after going through the pandemic and all of the curveballs it threw us. So maybe this is just life and the new way we're living it. I will say that UAH has an excellent multimedia lab and a new studio that they launched last fall, and I would absolutely recommend it. Unfortunately, at the time of this filming of the very first video, they were enhancing their system and the video card component was down. So I'm sure it's up and running. I'm sure it is fantastic. You should go check it out. You should take all those resources you can, because believe me, the lighting and setup is already there for you, and you're not trying to come up with some sort of janky home bedroom studio. I hope that you haven't thought that as you've watched this. I hope that it's just looked a little cozier and more inviting. But I wasn't able to use that either. So hurdle after hurdle, I slowly got myself into my first episode. Well, the first episode was going to be a whole different direction. I had pitched the idea of words and phrases and where they came from, etymology, academic, educational stuff. And then I realized, honestly though, do my friends want to watch this? Does my identified demographic want to watch this? People between maybe 25 and 55, maybe 30 to 55. Do they want to know where these phrases came from? Probably not. And maybe the older ones already know. So I thought, what could I do to bridge the gap? how do you bridge the gap between the boomers and the Gen Z, Gen X, millennials, all I wish they would just pick 1, 2, 3, 4. But anyway, how do you bridge that gap? And I think it's knowledge. I think that is also part of what schooling is all about. It makes us all have a common language. And so that's what I've tried to do here with AI. I've tried to explain some technology, explain a little bit of what it is, and then show applications of it in the real world. And this last episode really hone in by using Barbie the movie to hone in on what could be coming. AI could be an amazing thing, but if it gets out of control, not so much. We've seen this time and time again in superhero films, even. So it's crazy to see life on a screen become life in front of your eyes, and that's what I wanted to report on. I wanted to leave it with open-ended questions, not to give you the answers, but just to give you information and let you think about it, let you make a decision. So I have learned so much this semester, not only with dealing with the antiquated technology, the displacement of 3 different studios, and the rebranding of this show after just the first episode. I do think it ended up being a success. The reason is because I feel like this is better than it was to begin with. And I feel like I have made a large effort not to be the person behind the news desk blankly reading a screen, but rather sort of have that influence, yet break that fourth wall and really talk to you, tell you about things, get your opinion on things. If I get comments, I always respond to them, kind of a community, really. So I do plan to continue this. I don't know when I will launch season 2, but stay tuned. Thank you so much for all your support, your critique, your encouragement. I really appreciate it because it's been a minute since I was in front of the camera. And sometimes your skills get a little rusty. And that's one thing I've really had to learn and grow from this semester. So I'll probably add some more. Goodness knows I can talk my head off. So I'm going to stop there and say I hope that illustrates a lot of what I've learned, a lot of what I'm excited to do in the future, and I'll probably pop in some images of some of my setups just so you can see a little bit more behind the scenes. And with my remote, I say goodbye.